Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you're watching, and thanks for tuning in to 270 Live, brought to you by Home Depot. We're here in the beautiful city of Nashville, Tennessee, on a blistering cold and snowy day to bring you an exciting matchup, a regular season showdown between Riley Black and Keegan Fong. Without further ado, let's jump right into the action by sending it down to our brilliant commentators in the booth, Joe and Spencer. Take it away, boys.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this 270 live game. We have a special matchup here with Keegan Fong, the preseason tournament champion, coming to face Riley Black. Spencer, what are you thinking about with this matchup?
Now, Joe, I'm not sure if you remember the same tournament that I did, but last I checked, Ryan actually took that championship home. But we're watching a very solid player in Keegan, and Ryan, the up-and-comer. We only have the visual from the Keegan camp because the Riley camp is experiencing technical difficulties with all the inclement weather. But Keegan is an interesting player to watch, especially if he goes conservative, which he has today with Donald Trump. Joe, what are your thoughts on the candidate choice?
No, I think it's interesting because Keegan's Republican game is very strong. He's still working on his Democratic play. And speaking of which, we just see now Riley has selected Tim Ryan to be his candidate. So this should be a fun matchup with Keegan playing to his strengths as a Republican, and then just seeing a nice Tim Ryan game, which Riley has mastered in some games. I know it didn't work quite as well in the tournament against Keegan, but speaking of which, I'm sorry for misremembering that. Given my life as a hermit for the past week, it was just it's been hard. My memory kind of blends a little bit, being on the road.
Everyone at home, this booth smells like death at the moment, but hopefully after this, Joe will have a shower. Keegan has opened up with the classical South, and it appears that Riley is making some kind of push at swing states with both Florida and Ohio. Joe, what are your thoughts on these opening strategies here?
Oh, I think Keegan's doing exactly what he wants to do with the Old South. We see this play time and time again, 2 in Louisiana, 2 in North Carolina, 2 in Virginia, 2 in Maryland. Next turn, he'll have the bonus, and my guess would be he's going to go after the African-American vote after this, but we'll see what direction Keegan ultimately goes there.
Some sort of swing state, picking up both Arizona and Pennsylvania.
Ooh, and that's going to be interesting to see, especially with Tim Ryan going with the Florida-Ohio push, obviously eyeing that swing state bonus himself.
Looking at checking into New York as well, an odd move for a conservative candidate this early in the game. Joe, do you think that Tim Ryan stands a chance if Trump manages to grab states like New York and Pennsylvania from him, especially if he's going swing?
I'm not going to count Tim Ryan out of this because I think Riley's game is much more manufacturing based. So where some other Democrats might be screwed, I think Tim Ryan might actually be able to work his way out of this. You see with him going into Indiana, you'd have to think he's going to aim for manufacturing and pivot that direction.
Now, the manufacturing makes sense to me, but my problem with that is why would you open up in Florida and now Colorado and Iowa? The manufacturing push makes sense, but if you're trying to hangman, that isn't where you start. And if you want a manufacturing, Texas feels like a more reasonable spend. Where do you see Tim Ryan going from here?
I think swing state is still a fight he's having. I think manufacturing is going to come second. It's going to be he's in that fight for swing right now with Keegan, obviously, and then he's going to have to pivot to Texas to get manufacturing at some point. But
also,
I think
apparently going for. Would you say that the Massachusetts and New Hampshire push is for town and gown? Is Trump trying a town and gown?
I think it's just something he's looking to pick up along the way because you figure it helps him with the African-American vote, obviously. But if you have New York, you might as well just try to acquire town and gown because it doesn't cost much once you get New York. And we see Tim Ryan here pick up the swing state bonus. That's going to be huge for him in some of these fights.
I'm shocked we haven't seen Tim Ryan pip into Arizona yet. That is one of the biggest swing states to try to control early in this game. However, you have to think that it lets him have very much a lead in states like Pennsylvania, which have been one of the few spots that they have conflicted, and maybe gives him the opportunity to go into places like Virginia and North Carolina and try to threaten some of Keegan's hegemony in the South.
Oh, absolutely. Virginia, North Carolina, and Arizona are going to be prime targets for the Riley campaign moving forward because if you have the swing state money, you might as well pressure Keegan in those states where He'll probably pick up the African American vote here pretty soon. He obviously has the Old South, but he can't spend it all in all three of
And
those
there
states.
is
So
the
you have a
African American
chance.
vote for Keegan Fong. There it is. Now it's slightly diminished because of his candidate choice, but the African American vote is obviously one.
And Town and Gown, he picks up Town and Gown as well.
Yes. You have to think that we can't see Tim Ryan's visuals here, but you have to think North Carolina is a play for him, especially trying to move into that manufacturing bonus. You have to think that trying to at least fight for North Carolina, along with pipping in Texas, which he has done, are probably his best ideas. But Keegan looking at going into Michigan.
Yeah, it's interesting because you see these decisions. I'm starting to maybe wonder if there's a little bit of an efficiency gap here because you see, obviously, African American and Town and Gown are at a reduced rate for Donald Trump. I think Riley and Tim Ryan might have a chance to come back here just because of like Keegan's not getting the most out of those bonuses. He's only getting around 50, 55K a turn from Town and Gown. And when you think about that, that's like 2 spends in like a mid-level state. Then the African American bonus is always big, even if you have reduced. But I could see a situation here where Keegan's not getting the most out of his bonuses.
And Keegan pipping into California, you have to think he's making a high-tech play. But once again, Trump suffers in these categories. You have to think that if Tim Ryan can even pick up a few of the things that he wants to get, like manufacturing or Latino, he would actually be able to compete with Trump even with extra state groups. Trump's trying to play like a Democrat, and really I don't think it's to his strength. He should be trying to pick up some kind of manufacturing, fight for the Midwest.
No, I agree, and I think like we see that a little bit with Michigan, but especially with Tim Ryan, I believe he still does not yet have the manufacturing bonus. You figure if Keegan had gone into some of those states, he could have really put pressure on Tim Ryan.
There he goes, picking up manufacturing. That will all but seal states like Ohio and Pennsylvania, although Keegan now trying to close out North Carolina. We'll see if Tim Ryan decides to conflict him there. That would be a good move, if a little expensive.
Interesting right now, Keegan has picked up high tech here. He now has 4 state groups. It's definitely far from over, but he's at 243 electoral votes. I'm getting a little nervous here if I'm the Riley and Tim Ryan here, because especially when your opponent's getting there, it's tough to come back.
There's still a lot of votes on the board, and if Tim Ryan can fight in states like North Carolina or even try to pip into some more important of Keegan's states, it frankly seems a little defensive from Ryan. We haven't seen a lot of offense. He hasn't really tried to fight Keegan in any large states, although he has picked up ag going into some of the heartland states like Nebraska, Kansas. And where do you think he's going to apply that ag bonus?
I think ag's a weird situation, right? Because when someone gets the agriculture bonus, it usually doesn't make the difference. Like bonuses like the African American vote or the high tech bonuses really give you a lot of cash to work with, where ag, even if you have a bonus, is only going to be around 50, 60K. So I think it'll help the Tim Ryan campaign, but I don't think it's going to be particularly devastating or important for the Keegan campaign.
Absolutely. And you might think they would help in somewhere like North Carolina, but at the moment, North Carolina's sealed. There was no conflict in North Carolina. Trump has sealed that out and is now making a play at Illinois and Iowa.
I'll make the case, though, that even though Riley has lost out on Virginia and North Carolina,
export is off the board. Tim Ryan has picked up export-driven and sealed Illinois, Iowa, and Pennsylvania, all large states for him to get his hands on fully. Trump, it's still not a great situation for Ryan, but it's at least more solid than what was expected. And Trump burned a lot of money in Illinois. Do you think that this will have any ramifications going forward, Joe?
Yeah, I think with Riley right now, I think the thing he needs to worry about is Keegan not getting too comfortable in some of these states where we saw he just had to spend all of his Old South money, Virginia, North Carolina. He just needs to go into some of those states, make Keegan a little uncomfortable, and that'll force some errors, especially with this 1-minute turn timer. I think that's Riley's best bet here.
Absolutely. I think going into places like Utah or Maryland, and we're hearing the frustration from the Keegan camp as he forgets to spend.
That is a big play here.
Is big. However, it does not seem that the Tim Ryan camp really managed to swipe much from Keegan here. He may have gotten out a little easy. A zero spin can be a big thing, especially if you're not getting a lot from your state groups. A zero spin can allow you to fight in larger states like New York, as we see Keegan going in here.
No, I see what you're saying, where I think some of the more flashy no spends have come from when there's like a competitive battle in a state like North Carolina or Ohio, where one person maxes out and the other person would have maxed out, but they just didn't get their turn to end in time. So I see what you're saying, but I think it's still bad for the Keegan campaign, especially when you're playing with a lead. You just don't want to make mistakes like that. You just want to keep going. You want to run out the clock here, maybe try to rush ballot. But speaking of rushing ballot,
yeah, we see things closing out and Keegan moving into a lot of the oil and gas states. He does have California, just not Texas. Trump gets a lot of bonuses from oil and gas. And Keegan putting a lot of money to hold on to New York this turn. A lot of money.
And I think that speaks to the New York push, where even if Tim Ryan's not able to take New York, Riley's putting pressure on Keegan where he has to spend a lot of money just to potentially save that state. So if he's able to pressure there, that's really going to help him down the stretch here, where it's still close despite Keegan just clearing the 270 mark here at 273.
Yeah, no, that 1.8 million, 1.08 million is an intimidating thing to see as an opponent. You know that he might be able to spend in places like Michigan, in places like New York, trying to take away a larger state and maybe even seal it. We have to think that there's going to be some large, and Tim Ryan picks up Latino.
Oh, no, that's an interesting turn, because now we see that number go up to 1.42. He's got a lot of money to spend, and it looks like he's attacking Keegan in several important states here. So
he has moved into Michigan. He has moved into
Arizona, Michigan, Louisiana.
Yeah, and Keegan is trying to seal off Michigan and Colorado. We'll see if these, and trying to take the lead in New Mexico. Is Keegan making a push for Latino, or is he simply trying to siphon votes off of the upcoming opponent?
I think it's not necessarily about taking Latino as much as it is getting it out of Ryan's hands at this point, because Riley, of course, just picked up the bonus itself. So if Keegan's able to maybe take
almost $700,000 in conflicts,
wow.
Tim Ryan swipes Washington, I believe. Unless I'm mistaken, Washington was until very recently controlled by the Keegan camp.
Yep. No, that's a big play for sure. And we see now, Keegan's below the 270 threshold at this point. So this is anyone's game at this point. I think Keegan just really struggled, like we were talking about earlier, really expanding from this point, because he was flirting like in the 200s for a while, but he was just never able to get to a point where he had a commanding lead. He kind of cruised for parts of this game.
The weakness, I think, is going into state groups that don't fit Trump's play style. You grabbed the Old South, great. Even you grabbed African American, great. You left oil out. You should have moved into some kind of oil or maybe manufacturing. Texas was late off the board. Texas might not have been a bad pickup. And we see a conflict in Arizona. We see a conflict in New Mexico. Nearly $300,000. Between these two turns, we've lost nearly $900,000 in.
Oh my God. Tim Ryan is picking up states left and right here. He's getting up to 257 electoral votes. That's.
And it would seem that he's trying to rush ballot. He's spread out and has 2 pips in most of these states, which, if a ballot comes up, will be difficult for Trump.
No, absolutely. And like we were just talking about, in a situation where Donald Trump has 5 state groups and Tim Ryan has 5 state groups, Tim Ryan is optimizing those 5 he has with export, with manufacturing, and with swing, and with Latino. Those groups are excellent with Tim Ryan's bonuses. Donald Trump is not getting the most out of town and gown. He's not getting the most out of the African American vote. And high tech, he's not hurting, but he doesn't get a bonus there. I just think if Riley's able to squeak this out, we're going to be talking about that. But Keegan still has the lead for the time being, so we'll see how this works out.
Now, there's another $300,000 conflict in the Southwest. You feel that the Southwest, at the moment, whoever blinks first in that area probably will be the one to bite it. Keegan attempting to make a steal in Tennessee and ending his turn. That African-American money will play well into getting the 11-vote Tennessee. However, right now, I think there's a bit of a money gap. Tim Ryan seems to have more funds than Keegan simply because of the difference in efficiency.
And a lot of Keegan's money is a little misleading because he has some of that Old South money, but he's not able to spend that. Ooh, and we see
Ryan grabs New Mexico, which is a huge play with a conflict in Arizona as well. Keegan just debating on whether or not he wants to pip in New York. This is a dangerous spot to be. This is a very dangerous spot to be in for Keegan. You are in the lead, but not by a ton. Thankfully, there's no ballot yet. You'd be much more concerned if there was.
Hawaii's the thing holding that up right now. So until someone gets to Hawaii, I'm not going to be able to take my shower anytime soon. So I'm sure, Spencer, you're rooting for someone to go in Hawaii pretty soon, aren't you?
God, y'all have no idea. The hermit life is not a cleanly one for Joe Miller. He
life on the road.
Dude's football program. It is horrible.
Ooh. Just that hurt a little bit, not gonna lie. But
I'm sure it did. But it's only penance for the suffering that I've had to endure in this room.
Oh my goodness!
Arizona, and there's the ballot. There's the ballot, guys.
Oh my God! Tim Ryan picks up. They're tied at the moment. Wow!
And Tim Ryan's lead is he's got solid control over most of his states. Keegan trying to max out Maryland. Keegan maxing out Connecticut. You wonder, Keegan, New York seems to be your biggest issue. New York seems to be your biggest weakness. I don't know why you don't one pip into New York here. If Tim Ryan steals New York, this will be devastating.
At this point, though, I think if you're Riley, you're trying to just keep the lead or keep the score where it is right now because with the House tiebreaker, he does win.
Keegan might have zero spent there. He did not. He was
okay. He did spend, and we see Arizona. That's a tie, so that'll stay with Keegan.
Connecticut is
next out.
Hawaii's a conflict, which is a boost to Keegan. Keegan holds on there. Massachusetts goes to Tim Ryan. Maryland closes out.
That might be the play of the game.
We'll see. Maine, solid.
Tim Ryan keeps.
Missouri goes back.
Missouri.
Vermont closes out. Oh my God! And Tim Ryan walks away with the win by 2 electoral votes. What a game, ladies and gentlemen! What a game!
And Massachusetts play really.
The Massachusetts play was brilliant. Taking town and gown, well, not town and gown, but taking a major town and gown state at the end is. Oh, look how close Trump was. That is a brutal loss for Trump, but well played on both ends. I would say that we would take it to post-game interviews, ladies and gentlemen, but we are both snowed into this booth. I'm going to ask Joe to go roll around in the snow a little bit to clean off. Thank you for joining us. We've had a lovely game here today. We hope that you join us tomorrow.